Hey, are you breathing? Oh, good. Then this video is for you. Some of my other videos that you may have seen have been on the benefits of nose breathing, the solid science behind why we should be breathing in and out through our nose. Today, this video is about the how. You will have 10 things you can do starting today, some even starting in this video. I'll actually prompt you on a couple of things. 10 things that will help you make nose breathing a regular part of your day-to-day lifestyle. I know, stop. Don't you press that stop button. I know this sounds boring. You're shaking your head, rolling your eyes. It sounds boring, but if you are human and you breathe, you need to hear this information. Sounds simple. Close your mouth and breathe in and out through your nose. Sometimes simple is not always easy. These 10 tips will make it a little bit easier for you. I am not an expert, but I have been breathing for almost 57 years, but only really thinking about how I breathe in the last year and a half. And what a journey it has been. I've been a recreational runner for almost 25 years, and that's where this all started for me. I saw a YouTube video or listened to a podcast on nose breathing. Then that led to reading some books, listening to more podcasts, doing some search online about some scientific articles. You know how one thing leads to another. All that to say, I'm almost 18 months into my nose breathing journey, and I have lots of lessons to share with you. These examples that I'm going to use some are very specific to running, but not all are. And everything in these 10 tips are applicable to everyday living, whether you exercise or not. So let's jump in. 10 tips for healthy breathing. Tip number 1, take the time to assess your current breathing method. We breathe 25,000 times a day, every day. We breathe when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're angry, when we're relaxed. We breathe at home, at work, when we're out socializing. We don't even think about it. Our body just performs this life-sustaining process day after day after day, until it doesn't. Because we don't have to think about it and our body does it automatically, we may have some wrong assumptions about what our own breathing method is. So, how to get started? Take a few days or even a week to check in with your breathing. Think about it when you're standing doing the dishes or unloading the dishwasher or watching TV or checking your email. Pick a few activities that will be your kind of trigger activities to check in with your breathing. Another tip is to set an alarm on your phone during that week or those first few days, every 2 or 3 hours to go off. And that's your little check-in reminder. Okay, what am I doing now? How am I breathing? Is your mouth open? Are you breathing in and out through your mouth? Or is your mouth closed and you're breathing in and out through your nose? Or are you breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth? When we talk about nose breathing, we're talking in through the nose and out through the nose. So take some time to really observe your own method. Really get to know what your own strategy or your own method of breathing is. Number 2, give a little thought to some analytics before you start your nose breathing journey. So what I mean by this is, what are the things that you're hoping that this will improve for you? What's your why? Why are you doing this? This was a huge learning for me and a bit of a regret when I look back on things. I was not deliberate about getting baseline data, measuring the things that I was hoping would improve. What I was really hoping, again, this started with me for my running, so I was hoping that maybe it would improve my pace. That wasn't my primary focus, but I was thinking that maybe in the end that it would do that. I was thinking about my heart rate, I was thinking about my resting heart rate, my average heart rate, my VO2 max, all of those things. But I didn't measure that really deliberately for a while before I started. So my baseline is only as accurate as the data I already had. So take some time to think about what it is you want to measure. This is about your before and after. If you're doing this to get some relief, maybe from some asthma symptoms, maybe check now and see, okay, how far is it that I can walk before I get short of breath, or that I need my rescue inhaler or whatever medication that you may take. Think about the things that are specific to your situation. It's also about motivation, because there is nothing better when you start to track some of these things and you start to see them improving. It will happen gradually, but it is great when you have it on paper or in your phone and you can absolutely compare it. So how to get started, again, with tip number 2 is think about those indicators or those data points that you want to measure, and then just keep track of them. Write them in a scribbler, put them in the notes section of your phone, do a video record, a video journal. That's how I started with my running. I started to think, okay, I want to just kind of check in, see how I'm doing after each run and see how it goes over time. Never in a million years did I think I'd be sharing some of those raw, ugly video journals on a YouTube channel, but here we are. Maybe you'll start your own YouTube channel about your own progress and your own before and after story. Okay, let's move further down in the garden. My arm is getting a little tired of holding this camera up, so we'll see how it goes down below with a different microphone. Tip number 3, start slowly and very specifically. So we're at the point now, you've done your self-assessment. You now know what data points and indicators that you're going to keep track of and measure, and are ready to adopt nose breathing as your new breathing strategy. Okay, I guess this is where they say hurry up and slow down. This was a complete fail for me. I didn't do this. I did not start slowly and specifically. So if I had a do-over, I would be much more deliberate about this. So I would suggest picking an activity to focus on for your breathing. So don't jump into trying to incorporate nose breathing into your walks right away, or into your running or your cycling, whatever it might be. You need to build the skill first if you have traditionally been a mouth breather. And this is a skill that needs some practice. So how to get started? Build the skill with everyday activities first. Concentrate on nose breathing while doing the dishes. Again, think about specific activities. Okay, while you're doing your dishes, you're going to really concentrate, keep your mouth closed, breathe in and out through your nose slowly. Or while scrolling on your phone, while driving, while waiting in line, while reading, while watching TV, whatever it might be, but pick an activity that when you do that, that's a trigger for you. Okay, now's the time for me to practice my nose breathing. Slowly in through my nose and out through my nose with my mouth completely closed. This will better prepare you for introducing it into your life more consistently, including your exercise or your athletic routine. A little tip about introducing this into your running routine or your other exercise routine. Once you've done all this, you've started slow, you've picked your activities, you've been concentrating every time you sit down to watch TV, you've been nose breathing, and so you're getting better at it, you're building the skill, and now you're ready to start with your running. I would suggest starting out as you normally do. If you're ready to go for your first run and you want to try your nose breathing. Some of the information out there says start nose breathing right away, in and out through your nose as you start out on your run, and go at a slow pace. That is good advice. It didn't work for me. I've been running for almost 25 years, and I always find, no matter what my planned distance is, that first 5 minutes of my run is always a struggle. It takes me a while just to get into a groove. So what I started to do, and what I would offer as a suggestion, if that first one doesn't work for you, is just start out on your first run when you're about to start this nose breathing as you normally would. Wait till about 5 minutes and you're into a groove and you're feeling like you're into your normal routine. Then try some breaths in and out through your nose. Pick a distance, just like when you're starting to run. Like maybe okay, if I go to the next light pole, I'll breathe in and out through my nose between now until the next light pole. Maybe it's until I get up to that sign. But start slow. For me, again, what I did wrong, I started, okay, one day I'm going to start my nose breathing every time I run. Well, that first run, I could not even get one complete cycle of in through my nose and out through my nose. And so it was very discouraging, and remained discouraging for a few weeks. Live and learn. And I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm hoping you can learn from my mistakes as well. Okay, tip number 4 is a little tip about your recovery from exercise or activity. Introduce nose breathing immediately following your run or your exercise routine. So before you start, I wasn't sure whether this should be actually tip number 3 or tip number 4. I guess I have to say they're not necessarily in order. So pick what works for you. So this tip number 4, before you start incorporating the nose breathing into your actual runs, practice the nose breathing on your recovery walks. And so if you are somebody who runs or cycles, whatever, and if you do a little bit of a recovery walk afterwards, that is such a perfect time to practice your breathing in and out through your nose. You may not be able to, like if you've just finished a run or cycling or biking, whatever your activity is, you may not be able to immediately go to nose breathing because you're still trying to catch your breath. And so just try to slow your breath down, even if that means mouth breathing. The purpose is that you're trying to down-regulate your breathing process for recovery. And this is such a good time to practice your nose breathing. So how to get started with tip number 4? During your recovery, try to slow your breathing down. If you can, as I said, breathe in and out through your nose, but if not, through your mouth, and just slow it down a little bit. Once things settle, then try to do in and out through your nose. Rather than me talk about it, as I said, I'm not an expert on this. I am sharing my experiences, but there are lots of experts out there. And these two videos that I'm hoping are popping up on my video now are excellent. These are the experts. One is from the Oxygen Advantage group, and one is from the Andrew Huberman podcast. These are experts in this field. They may not agree on every aspect of this, but they are the experts I always go to. And I love that they don't always agree on every aspect of it. I think that's what convinces me that, you know what, they are interested in getting to the science and figuring out what is right. I still do this after every single run. I still concentrate on my post-run recovery walk and really concentrate on my breathing. And again, if you watch any other videos, you can see my my experience with the recovery. It has been huge with the nose breathing. Tip number 5 is about technique. Not all nose breathing is the same. It's meant to be low and slow. And you will hear people talk about that often, about diaphragm breathing and taking a low, slow breath in and out through your nose. This is key. I did not fully understand this. And even when I understood it later through my journey, I underestimated the importance of the technique and the proper technique. When we talk about breathing in and out through your nose, it does not mean taking big, deep breaths. When I first started, I started about taking long, deep breaths, and I would actually practice sometimes, and I go, that's totally wrong. See my shoulders going up? That should not happen. It should not be about a deep breath. It should be low and slow. And so it's about the diaphragm. There's lots of videos on here, and I will point to one as well that you can hear the experts talk about this. But what I found best is put your hands on your rib cage and breathe in slow. So the shoulders should not be going up and down at all. Your rib cage, you should feel it go out and in, and slowly expanding. And that's an indication of good diaphragm breathing. And some people say to put your hand on your belly, and that's another option. And again, you can watch this video from the experts. I'm not an expert. And it may, when you first started, when you start to do this slowing down of it and the really low breathing, the diaphragm breathing, you may find that you get a little air hunger. That's part of the building the skill. I mean, we're trying to build up your tolerance to CO2, again, to allow you to use the oxygen more efficiently. So that is normal. And you can watch, again, just Google nose breathing and air hunger. There's lots of information out there. So how to get started with tip number 5, plunk yourself down in front of a mirror and put your hands on the sides of your rib cage and watch and feel the outward expansion of your ribs. Not your belly, not your chest. Your belly will go out a little bit, but not your chest. You don't want your shoulders going up and down. And if you do nothing else, again, practice this technique. It is important to get the technique right. I misunderstood this in the beginning, and then even once I understood it, I underestimated the importance of the low and slow breathing. So tip number 6, keep your tongue on the roof of your mouth, just at the base of your front teeth. And you can see some other demonstrations of this. Again, you can search this to see demonstrations of it. This is such a helpful hint. It's not a huge tip, I don't think, but it's one with lots of value in it. Keeping the tongue on the roof of your mouth just behind your front teeth actually helps to facilitate nose breathing. It doesn't, even if you are breathing through your mouth, it doesn't allow as much air in and out through your mouth, and it kind of forces the nose breathing a little bit. It also helps to, again, build the skill, because when you're doing your proper nose breathing, that's where your tongue should be. So how to get started with tip number 6? It's pretty easy. Find the position, start now. You can do it for the rest of this video and see how it goes. Tip number 7, nasal congestion. Oh, this is a big one for me. And nasal strips. I have chronic congestion, and so it's hard for me to nose breathe. It has gotten so much better.
This is a common scene and a common theme in many of my other videos.
It took me a long time before I was wanting to try a nasal strip, and oh my goodness, I'll just show you this clip to share my experience.
I'm at about 3 kilometers with the nose strip on. What a difference. Oh my goodness. I have sunscreen on, I have lotion on, and I'm sweating. It's warm. And after 7 kilometers, it's pretty secure.
I've tried a few different brands. The one I use in this video is linked below in the description or in the notes, so feel free to check it out if this is something that you want to explore. But you can get these at any drugstore or pharmacy in your area. So how to get started on tip number 7 with nasal congestion and nasal strips. Number 1, if you don't have nasal congestion and that's not an issue, do nothing. You can skip ahead to tip number 8. But if you do have a temporary or chronic issue, like I do, try a couple of different strips. There may even be some benefit in, I don't know, putting one on to walk around the house and see how well it stays on and see what that does for you. I didn't. I just went for a run one day and I thought I'm going to try one of these just because I was so congested and I have seasonal allergies, which is always fun. So you may want to practice with one around your house before starting, but if not, put it on and give it a try. If you're somebody who suffers with congestion, this will be an eye-opening or nasal passage opening experience for you. The only other thing that I might add about this is read the instructions, and it's really important. I assume most of the brands are the same, but I don't know this for sure. But if you've just put sunscreen on and you're just about to go for a run or out for a walk and you're going to wear one of these nasal strips, you need to clean the surface because it needs to stick to your skin. And if you have lotion or moisturizer or sunscreen on, that results in this. Tip number 8, don't become so focused on nose breathing and learning to nose breathe that you forget all the other stuff that you already know. So this comes down to whatever your why is. And for me, it's about running. All that to say, I was learning to nose breathe with my running. I was a bit anxious about longer runs, and I would think that, oh, it's going to be harder because I'm going to have to nose breathe for longer. This is in the early days. And you know what? I'll just show this clip again of one of the recordings that I did.
Here we are midway, about 5 kilometers, a little more than midway, about 5 kilometers in on my last run of week 3. It's a tough one. I'm slogging along. I'm overdressed. It's warm, much warmer than I thought. I have 3 layers on. Silly. I have my insulated winter running pants. Silly. I have my thick socks on. Silly. Oh, and I drank about a gallon of coffee this morning. I think lately I've been focusing so much on the breathing, I'm just losing my common sense about stuff I normally think about with running. So,
yeah. So don't forget about all the other things you still have to do.
Getting started with tip 8? Easy peasy.
This is not going to replace everything. This is meant to be used in conjunction with what you're doing. So tip number 9, we're getting there. Tip number 9, mouth breathing is appropriate sometimes. Remember, you should be nose breathing as often as you can while you're awake, while you're asleep. For exercising, your focus should be on those light to moderate activity levels. Once you get up to the more intense activity levels, you're probably going to have to mouth breathe. And that's okay. That's what is expected. So don't become so obsessed with this that you think you have to breathe in and out through your nose for all levels of activity. I got a little too focused on my nose breathing and thought I had to be doing it all the time, and would be pretty discouraged as I was getting to the upper part of a longer run, and I'd be huffing and puffing and I'd just have to mouth breathe. Took me a while to realize, yeah, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Again, there are more efficient ways to breathe in and out through your mouth at that point, and you can Google that and search that. But yeah, mouth breathing is appropriate sometimes. Also, if you are learning specific breath work, like some breath work for specific purposes includes mouth breathing. That's, again, for a specific purpose. So all this to say, there are some times when mouth breathing is expected and is what you should be doing. Just remember that you should be nose breathing as often as you can through your daily activities. So how to get started with tip number 9? Simply educate yourself and know when mouth breathing is appropriate and when nose breathing may not be appropriate. Nose breathing is probably not appropriate for sprinting, as we talked about, high intensity exercise. When you enter, this is another thing, when you enter a race, for me it was a running race, when you enter a race, that is not a time to focus on your nose breathing. The nose breathing that you've been doing in all your training runs, that's building the skill. That's what's built this solid foundation. That's what's prepared you for the race. When you're in the race, it is about performance. You breathe however you have to breathe and in your most effective way. And you're usually pushing with a harder effort if you're in a race. So again, I wouldn't focus on it if you're actually in a competitive situation. All okay. Don't become so focused on it that you think there's never a reason to mouth breathe. Tip number 10, this is a biggie. Pay close attention. Tip number 10 is don't be a jackass. Sorry, there's no other way to say it. You are not the breathing police. You are focusing on yourself, not everyone else. And trust me, as you read and learn more about this, and as you start to experience the benefits of nose breathing after you've incorporated into your own life, you are going to want to talk to other people about it. You're going to tell them about your story. You want to convince them of the importance of nose breathing. They don't want to hear it. If asked, share. If not asked, tone it down a bit. This was a lesson I learned the hard way. So, how to get started with this tip number 10. If you find that your social invitations have been slowing down after you start this incredible journey, and I mean, you will want to talk about it because it changes so many things. You will see lots of improvements. But if your social invitations have slowed down a little bit, that may be a signal that you are talking a little bit too much about it and you're a little too enthusiastic for those around you. Just saying. Remember, this is your own improvement journey. It's not the journey for other people. And even when you find yourself, you'll be scanning again. Once you start to be more informed about it and start to incorporate it into your own lifestyle, you'll start scanning. You'll be watching people. Oh, they're breathing through their mouth. Oh my gosh, look at them. They're breathing through their mouth constantly. That is not your job. Your job is to focus on you, your improvement. So another way to put tip number 10 into action is find your people, find your community where people are talking about this, so that you can continue to learn. I'm almost a year and a half into this and I'm still learning. I'm still watching videos and reading books about it because I'm constantly learning. Find your community where people are as enthusiastic about it as you are. You know what? You may even want to start a YouTube channel and share some of your information on YouTube so others can learn that way. That way, if people are tuning in, it's because they want to, not because you're imposing it upon them. This is a hard one, but one that is important to remember. Another way that you could find your own community about this and comment with like-minded people who are also as enthusiastic with this, put it in the comment section. I would love to hear your feedback, positive or negative, on what your experience has been. You can search other YouTube channels, and there are lots out there. So don't hesitate to look for your community and participate. Comment in the comment section and add your thoughts and get some ideas and suggestions, and offer your ideas and suggestions. So just wrapping up, the 10 tips we've gone over, not all of them will be applicable to you. Pick the ones that work. This is worth the effort. You may get frustrated. It may not seem as easy as you expected it to be. That is okay. Stick to it. You will see the improvements. Make every breath count. Remember, take the lead in your own living. You're in charge for your wellness, your work, your leisure. This is something that costs nothing, but pays big.
This is probably a good time for me to remind you that I am not a health expert. As always, please discuss any new health initiative with your primary care provider.